All right. Hi, Duke. How are you?
I'm good, Mark. How are you?
Good, good. So happy to have you on the show today. I'm very interested in what you're doing and what you guys are planning on doing. And for me, personally, I'm a big NFL football fan. So anytime I can, see sports and see social media and see some of the cool things that, organizations like yours are doing, I'm extremely interested. So welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
So when you look at what you guys and you specifically are doing today, can you kind of describe that for us in 30 seconds or so?
Sure. Overall, our digital department is basically the entity within the building that is covering the football team. So we run the website, the mobile app, all the social media accounts, and we see ourselves as probably the most direct touch point between the team and the fans. So it's really just trying to cover the team just like anybody else would, with a little bit more behind the scenes access.
I mean, don't you have kind of an advantage than the rest of us? I mean, don't you have a huge installed fan base already? Is it really that hard to engage with fans, or do you find it difficult to keep them entertained?
There's always a challenge, but I think we certainly have that built-in advantage of having a vast fan base that rivals anybody else in the NFL, anybody else in professional sports. It's just something that you have to capitalize on. I think they're there for the taking. People are very interested in what we're doing. We have a captive audience. So it's trying to determine what they're actually trying to find, what they could find from us that they can't get elsewhere. So for me, I think a lot of that is the behind-the-scenes content, the things that make them feel like they're actually at Lambeau Field on a game day, getting to know the players a little bit more behind the face mask. So we do our best to try to provide that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's certainly something that's a lot of fun to cover. The team and the history speaks for itself. So to be able to tell that story to our international fan base is really a blessing.
And where do you put that content out? Is it on like a YouTube? Is it on Facebook? Is it everywhere? What are your primary channels that you like to leverage?
We have three primary digital channels outside of social media that we run right now. So there's the traditional desktop website. We have a mobile website. We have a mobile app. And then there's the social accounts. So right now we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our Google Plus has gone somewhat dormant here. And we're on Snapchat. So those are the primary avenues that we're reaching fans. We are certainly keeping our eyes open to what the emerging technologies are. We did a recent test with Facebook Live. We've done Periscope broadcasts from pep rallies in opposing cities when we're on the road for road games. So those have been neat experiments, and we're just keeping our eye on what's next.
Why Snapchat, though? Do you feel like Snapchat is something that you're experimenting with, or are you seeing real value out of it? What's kind of your opinion on Snapchat?
Kind of both, experimenting and starting to see some of the value, not necessarily from a monetary sense, but we're seeing our overall user base is growing. It's by far smaller than Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's just the way that everybody is right now. But I think we finally reached a point where all 32 NFL teams are on Snapchat. The last one just went live. We were actually the 30th to join, so we really took a while to see how things were developing before we dipped our toe in the water. But for us, it's just another way for us to reach a younger audience. It's obviously skewing on the younger side, the teenage audience. Those are the ones that we'd like to become diehard Packers fans for the rest of their lives. So for us, it's just an opportunity to hit them there, to give them some of the game day content that they can't necessarily get anywhere else in a live sense. Pre-game stuff on the sidelines, pre-game warm-ups. So we try to pull back the curtain a little bit for that sort of content.
But does it bug you that the content disappears in 24 hours, or are you okay with that?
Ideally, you'd have content that you could always link back to. So, I mean, that's the most general answer. But I think there's also a charm to the fact that the content disappears after 24 hours. Obviously, a brand is going to use it a little bit differently than an individual is going to use it. We're not necessarily using some of those goofy face filters or anything like that. So it's such a live type of thing for me in a way that it feels like it's content that's in the moment. So that's how we try to approach that. But yeah, to answer your question, I guess I'd prefer to have something to actually show after the fact, because we are putting in the time and effort to create this content. So for it to disappear on some level can be frustrating.
I mean, I don't know how you guys do it. I'm not a big fan of Snapchat. I like the stories. I like all the content. I watch ESPN every day, but I'm thinking to myself, this stuff disappears in 24 hours. I can't link into it. All this great content I'm creating is just gone. Unlike ESPN, where they're reusing that across multiple channels, and there's not really a huge additional cost to creating that just for Snapchat. It's just, adding some cool logos and text and all that. But I'm thinking for the Green Bay Packers, I don't know how much value you could get out of it. Initially, the way it's set up now, it's not like you can sell tickets from it. But I'm sure you're just looking at this as, okay, let's experiment with Snapchat. Let's figure out if it's going to work for us or not, and maybe in the future it'll work, because there's some things that they've decided to do that will help us with our overall goals.
For us, it's just pure engagement, and it's purely trying to catch in more fans. It's trying to build that fan base. It's a very different element other than the other social networks. So our strategy for Snapchat is definitely different.
Okay. And so let me ask you about technology in general. For me, I've been in the sports world for a long time on the sports marketing side. It seems to me that they're a couple of years behind typically than most brands. I'm not saying all organizations. So how do you keep up with technology, and what steps do you take to kind of make sure that you're not falling behind?
We certainly do our best to keep up with the industry's trends. A couple of years ago when we redid our mobile website, that was one example where we, along with everybody else, recognized that people were starting to use their devices everywhere, and the majority of web traffic was moving towards those mobile devices. So we put a lot of resources behind that. I think that's starting to pay dividends here. It's a project that's been almost 2 years in the making. We're continuing to iterate our mobile website experience. And this past year, I think we had a 91% increase year over year in the unique visitors that were hitting our mobile website. So it's certainly something that we feel gratified for having put in all of that effort. We've made the effort to put in redirects. So when we're pushing content out on social media, it's smart enough to detect whether you're coming from a phone, whether you're coming from a tablet, or whether you're coming in from a traditional desktop computer. So we're trying to serve up the best possible experience on each of these devices. Now, another focus for us heading into 2016 is probably putting more of an emphasis on our mobile app. It's by far the lowest user base that we have of our three main platforms on digital, but they consume by far more content than the other platforms. So I'd like to look for ways to build up that user base, because they're rabid fans for whatever reason. I don't know what it is, but they're actively wanting to put the Packers logo on their phone. They're actively going into that app just about every day, and they're looking at more articles, videos, and photo galleries than anybody else.
So are these super fans, or are you just finding these are just everyday fans that like to do this with the mobile app?
We don't truly know, but just based on the analytics, I have to believe that they're super fans based on the amount of content that they're viewing. It's in some cases 20 times more than the other platforms. So that's the only conclusion I can get to from that.
And what is the purpose? Is the purpose of the mobile app to be like Snapchat? Is it just engagement, or is it to sell tickets or merchandise? What's kind of the purpose of the mobile app at the end of the day? If I look at this from a marketer's point of view.
Well, we started out with engagement, and we're looking for ways to build on that in terms of monetizing that. So we're looking for more opportunities for our sales team to provide some things there. In terms of some of the other technologies that we're looking into there, we're trying to look at the game day experience here. A lot of teams have already done that, stadium-specific experiences. We did some experimenting during our playoff run a few months ago with location-based alerts, some testing with beacons, and geofencing. So that's something that we're starting to look at more seriously. Now, our audience tends to skew a little bit older here in Green Bay. At least that's the statistics that we have on our season ticket holders. We're seeing the same thing on our digital properties too. So to some degree, we're still weighing whether the benefits outweigh the cost that would go into spending so much money into being able to find concessions in the stadium easier, in-seat ordering, wayfinding around the stadium. It's all stuff that we're looking into. So in 2016, 2017, I definitely see us moving beyond just pure engagement and informing and providing what's already on our website, and looking to really give people what they're looking for from an experience standpoint at the stadium or from home.
Have you asked the fans what they'd like to see in the mobile app, and anything you could share with us on that feedback?
In a more informal sense, we haven't done any widespread surveys or anything. So I think there's definitely a percentage of our fan base that wants to see some of those high-tech things. They want to see replays on the app inside their seat when they're here at the stadium. Our Wi-Fi system here at the stadium, from my understanding, has been upgraded over the last couple of years. So I think just from a technological standpoint, that's just now starting to be something that's going to actually be feasible, where we had some technology limitations in previous seasons.
Okay, and what results have you seen so far from the mobile app? Is it strictly engagement that you've looked at, or are there other benefits to people creating their own mobile apps? Can you share with us some of your results?
I think it's been mostly engagement right now. It is giving people an awareness of the content that we're creating, covering the team. Going back to one of your earlier questions about selling tickets, we're in the unique spot where we really don't have to worry about that. I think our season ticket waiting list is over 100,000. Every game is sold out for I don't know how many years in a row. So we're really lucky. We don't have to push tickets. If anything, we might do more to cater to our season ticket holders, but to actually find a single game ticket here in Green Bay is a difficult thing, unless you're going through one of the official ticket brokers, Ticketmaster, or if you're just buying it off of somebody on the street. But we don't necessarily have a lot of that to sell.
Do you have a community where you ask your super fans to kind of participate in, whether it's a Facebook group or some kind of gamified community? Have you guys looked into that? I mean, it seems like with your super fans, and I can identify them with the cheese that's on top of their heads. Is there any type of community that you've created for these individuals?
We have a primarily fan-facing website that is called Packers Everywhere. So that's another organization-wide initiative, and it really started with trying to give fans an easier way to find places to watch games with other fans. So it'll show you restaurants and bars that are primarily Packers bars, and we've heard a lot about fans meeting up at those, striking up lifelong friendships at those. So based on that program, we've tried to engage fans there, encourage them to share content, encourage them to share with one another. We host Packers Everywhere pep rallies at some of the road games, like I mentioned. So that ties the program together, brings some of our alumni players face-to-face with the fans there. And then on Packers.com, just our comments section within articles is absurd how many comments we get on some of these articles. So we're seeing a lot of engagement there because fans are returning throughout the day, just waiting to see what other people are saying to their input on some of our articles.
Okay. Anything that I didn't ask in regards to any of the technology you guys are using that I should have asked?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of questions yet to be asked, and that's where I'm just continuing to wait and see what's going to develop here, what the big social network is going to be that comes up next. But for the time being, we're trying to continue on the platforms that we're on socially. We're trying to probably put more time and effort behind Snapchat this year because we see that exploding. I think live video on the web is going to explode in 2016 more than it has in previous years. So that's another thing that we're looking at. And then from the website, like I said, just things are going mobile. So I think we're starting to think mobile first rather than desktop first, as in some respects, you're seeing the disappearance of the importance of the homepage. And now it's more important that we're making sure our content is reaching fans through the social channels, and they're getting everything they want there rather than expecting them to come to our traditional desktop page.
Speaking of mobile first, Facebook made a big announcement a couple weeks ago about Facebook bots. Have you guys thought about what a Green Bay bot would look like or behave like? Any thoughts around that?
I have a lot of questions just on, I guess, the implementation of something like that, and I'd like to experiment with something like that a lot more before we ever unleash something like that from a customer service standpoint. I think there's so much that potentially can go wrong with automation, not that it's not a wonderful tool. That we're a conservative organization, so we tend to think of worst case scenario first, let it play out. So that might be one of those avenues that I want to see play out a little bit more before we think about that seriously as something that we would utilize here.
Yeah, I could envision a very safe one being, tell me the stats of Brett Favre in 1994. That would be you're not going to get that screwed up.
No, that's a great idea, and that's potentially an implementation that we could do with our stat feed. So that actually is a good idea.
That allows you to tiptoe into the waters and nothing's going to happen, to embarrass you. I understand you're wanting to be conservative, but that just seems like something fans would love to kind of ask the app and the bot to go retrieve it. Very simple.
I'm really curious to see what some other professional sports teams are going to do there, and I'm sure there's going to be some neat innovations that we might steal an idea here or there.
Yeah. All right. Well, Duke, it's been a pleasure. For anyone watching this, go to the article itself if you want my in-depth analysis as to how I see this space moving, especially within social media, Snapchat, Facebook, Messenger, mobile. We're going to provide a full analysis around this, probably specific to the NFL, but I might expand that into sports. So, Duke, once again, thank you. It was a pleasure having you.
All right. Thanks so much, Mark.
Thank you.